Good evening and welcome to our agenda briefing for the 9th of June 2025. This, of course, is for our full ordinary council meeting, which will be next Monday evening at 7 p.m. here at the Kalgoorlie Town Hall. As we start this evening at 6 p.m, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land on which we meet this evening on behalf of the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. Please note this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on our council's website in accordance with the city's public participation in council meeting policy, which can be viewed on council's website. All reasonable care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded, and by remaining in the public gallery, it is assumed that your consent is given if your image is broadcast. The recommendations contained in this agenda are officers' recommendations only, and should not be acted upon until council has resolved to adopt those recommendations. The resolutions of council should be confirmed by perusing the minutes of the council meeting at which these recommendations were considered. Members of the public should also note that they act at their own risk if they enact any resolution prior to receiving official written notification of council's decision. The purpose of an agenda briefing session is for councillors to ask questions and to obtain additional information in respect to the items being presented on the ordinary council meeting agenda. Questions asked by councillors are to be answered by the CEO or person nominated by the CEO and or person presiding. No decisions are made at agenda briefing sessions and no statements are to be made. There's to be no debate on items conducted. Our record of attendance this evening, we have Councillor Bodica. Good evening, Councillor Bodica. Welcome back from your holiday. Councillor Wynn is here tonight with some gloves. Are they your gloves? Sorry, they're Councillor Bodica's gloves. Councillor Johnson, good evening to you. Greetings, Councillor O'Donnell. Greetings. Councillor Turner, hello. And Councillor Viskovich, good evening to you. Our CEO is here tonight, Andrew Bryan. Good evening, Mr. CEO. Hello to our Director of Governance and Organisational Strategy, Francis Liston, who's on the end there. Hello, Francis. Hello, Mia. Mia Hicks is our Director of Advocacy and Strategy. Melissa Murphy is here tonight, our Director of City and Community. Alongside Melissa is Zandra Kernock, who's our Director of Finance, People and Culture. Our Director of Corporate and Commercial is Cass Yeager. Hello, Cass. And Louis Camporelli rounds out our table this evening as our Director of Engineering. Also joining us tonight, hello Louis, by the way. Also joining us tonight, Lauren Chapman-Holly's here tonight as the Manager of Community and Development. Hello, Lauren. Hello, Kevin, who's alongside you as well. Kevin Tang is our Coordinator of Statutory Planning. Our Coordinator of Governance is Susie Beamish, who's to my right. Hello, Susie. Welcome back. Jamie Boys is here tonight, our Governance Officer. Hello, Jay. Nice glasses. Are they the special type? The blue tinged? And Matt Pearson is also here tonight as well, our IT Cyber Security Analyst. We have one visitor who is in the gallery this evening, Mr. David Julian Price, who will be conducting training with us. Good evening to you, sir, after our agenda briefing. An apology from Councillor Brownlee this evening. There's no apologies from staff. We do note that the Deputy Mayor has got a leave of absence at the moment and continues her holiday. Councillor Bodica and Councillor Turner also had leave of absence but are in the chamber tonight. Councillors, I don't have any notations of interest tonight. Is there any notations? Nope. We do have quite a big agenda to get through. As noted today, councillors, the reports of committees from the Audit and Risk Committee minutes from the 5th of June do take in the first 13 items of our agenda tonight from 14.1.1 through to 14.1.13. Mr. CEO, if you'd like to just give an overview of that, noting that you are probably the responsible author for most of, if not all of, contributions to that. If you'd like to provide a bit of an overview to councillors, noting that Councillor Bodica, Councillor O'Donnell, Councillor Viskovich and myself were also at the committee meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't go through every item individually, but if there's any specific issues that the councillors or questions that councillors want to ask, happy to deal with those. The reports dealt with the appointment of a independent presiding member in the terms of reference in the committee, the internal audit plan update for 2025, delegated authority in the internal audit, integrity self-assessment, integrity and conduct annual collection, progress against the audit committee recommendations, purchasing stats for March, tenders awarded under delegation, year-to-date progress dashboards, the purchasing policy exemptions report, overdue debtors, pool inspections and the safety quarterly report. Happy to take any questions on any of those, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Councillor Attorney, have a question in relation to which item?
Sorry, in relation to the appointment of the independent.
1411.
Yep.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, just through the mayor, having read the attached documents and understanding that there was only one applicant despite advertising, and I just had a couple of questions. Given that this is due to changes under the Local Government Act, that we have to have this in place, is it correct that it must be in place by the 1st of July, so that for the incoming new council on the 1st of October? I was just a bit confused by, there was 2 dates mentioned, so.
Mr CEO.
Yeah, thank you. Through the mayor. Yeah, the 1st of July is the original date, and then obviously we have to do the reassessment come the election when we reappoint committee members at that point in time. That's why the 2 different dates.
So the committee may change under the new committee post-election.
Yep. So my second question is, whilst the committee may change, the independent chair would stay the same. Is that correct?
The independent chair, depending on the discretion of council at the time, may change. That we can't make that future decision at this point in time. Mr. CEO, is that correct? Yeah.
Sorry, through the mayor, yes, the council will need to go through that process again post-election.
So this appointment's for approximately 3 to 4 months?
At this point, due to the time frame required under the legislation versus our next election. Any further questions? Councillor Viskovich, which item?
Due to the, sorry, let me bring up the item. I've only got the questions in front of me. Do you want to come back to me, Mr Mayor?
Any other questions, councillors? No?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will send through my questions. They were asked at the audit and risk. However, I did struggle to hear the answers, so I'll just send through the email. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. No further questions on those committee items? No, thank you. We'll move through the agenda to item 15.1, which is nil, and that's the reports of officer from the Chief Executive Officer. 15.2. We look at governance and organisational strategy, the amendment to delegated authority 1.1.21 and financial hardship policy. Director of Governance and Organisational Strategy, Francis Liston.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. Item 15.2.1 is a couple of amendments for Council to consider. One is in relation to delegated authority, which addresses the ability of the CEO to waive, discount or write off payments due to the city. And in connection with that, an updated financial hardship policy in relation to the circumstances which would apply for that to be exercised.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors, on 15.2.1? No questions. Thank you. 15.2.2, Youth Council.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. This has come about as a result of a review on the functions of the Youth Council, but also in connection with the upcoming reforms in relation to committees. The proposal is that the Youth Council move from being an adopted council committee to instead a working group format, just to reduce some of those formalities and legislative burden.
Thank you. Questions, councillors, on 15.2.2? Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through the chair to the director. Sorry, wrong item. Thank you. While Youth Council will look the same on the surface, given we are making a significant backroom change, is there any opportunity to open up councillor appointments to see if other councillors would also like to be involved in supporting this wonderful group of youth?
Thank you. Director.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. There's no difficulty with that in terms of that resolution being modified by Council, noting that the positions, well, I suppose the positions would become vacant following the election. We would treat the working group in the same way. So the other opportunity would arise post-election in October.
Thank you. Councillor Winner, any further questions? No. Councillor Turner.
Just to the Director through the Mayor, I believe that there is a meeting tomorrow with the current youth councillors to go over this, to get their views, to find out that they're all happy with how this is going as well, because obviously they're a big part of this.
There is a meeting tomorrow, yes. Thank you. Any further questions? Did you want to add anything to that, Director?
Thank you. Through the Mayor, yes, it wasn't intended that it would be to go through to make sure that they're happy with this. It was more the intent that we would consult with them to explain what this would look like and why it's happening, rather than get their views on whether it should or shouldn't happen.
Any further questions, councillors? No. Thank you. Thank you, Director. Item 15.3, Finance, People and Culture. 15.3.1, our statement of financial activity for April 2025, and also with several other items tonight is our Director of Finance, People and Culture in Zandra Kernock.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Item 15.3.1 is the Statement of Financial Activity for the month of April 2025. So this has an operating variance which is less than 1% for both the revenue and the expenses, and shows that we are on track for FY 2025.
Thank you. Councillors, questions on 15.3.1? No. Thank you. 15.3.2, Accounts Payable May 2025.
This report shows the amounts that we've paid to suppliers for the month of May 2025, and the amount total is 8.4 million, which is in line with the average monthly spend.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions on that report? No. Thank you. 15.3.3 is the schedule of fees and charges 25-26.
So this report is for Council to approve the schedule of fees and charges proposed for the year from 1 July 2026 to 30 June 2027. The report contains two attachments, one being the proposed schedule, which is to be publicly advertised, put on the website, and one that shows the new proposed fees and charges. The schedule also includes definitions page this year to ensure our customers are fully aware of what fees and charges and discounts they are entitled to.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions on 15.3.3, fees and charges? Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to the Director, we have spoken about pool fees and charges for breaches. Is that something that should be in the fees and charges, that if we're getting an issue with the pool, they've not complied with the breach notice, that we need to be issuing a fee for them to have the pool rectified?
Director?
Through the Mayor, my understanding is those are statutory charges. However, I guess it's up to Council if there an additional field charge is to be introduced that's outside of legislation.
Councillor Viskovich?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I personally would like to see something that is a lot more firm to ensure that our pools are all compliant throughout Kalgoorlie-Boulder. So if we can have something attached or included in the fees and charges, if that's an option.
Mr CEO?
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor, we'll have to have a look at that in relation to creating a new penalty to ensure it was still compliant with the Act as to how we actually enforce it. So we will take that on notice and provide a response before next week.
Thank you. Any further questions on fees and charges, councillors? Councillor Turner?
This may be more to the CEO rather than the Director, but through the Mayor, if this is passed next week without any changes, what date will it be advertised to the public?
Director?
So through the Mayor, I believe it'll be advertised as soon as possible so that we have 2 weeks. So my understanding, without a calendar in front of me, that it'll be from the 16th to the 30th of June to go live from 1 July.
Any further questions, Councillor Turner? Just looking at timing, thank you. Councillor Winner?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just seeking confirmation that, in line with our previous year in regards to the Goldfields Oasis, we're once again not looking to have spectator fees for the swimming pool area.
Director?
Correct. Spectator fees, they're either listed as free or they've been eliminated. I don't know off the top of my head, but there are no fees for spectators at the Oasis.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Viskovich?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through to the Director. So just confirming, we are giving those that are having fees change 2 weeks' notice of the amended changes to their fees and charges for hiring, for example.
Director.
Through the Mayor, so yes, there will be public notice of 2 weeks. And then we do encourage everyone in the organisation to communicate with their customers directly and put up notices, etc. So, for example, in the Oasis, we will encourage that they also communicate that to their customers, or the airport, for example, would communicate to their customers so that it's very clear that their fees and charges change from 1 July.
Councillor Wynnum.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just following on from Councillor Viscovich's question, my apology, Councillor. If a previous item of the agenda was to be successful in regards to delegation to the CEO of potential waiving of fees or discounts, the CEO would have the ability to negotiate rates moving forward. Is that correct?
Mr CEO.
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor. Yeah, the delegation relates to the waiver of fees for community not-for-profit groups, not commercial operators or commercial charges.
Any further questions, councillors? Just one from me, Director. The comparison, we were asked to look at a comparison on the Arts Centre and certain parts of the Arts Centre. Did that take into account all areas of the Arts Centre, or was that just one particular area?
I'm going to hand that to the Director of Corporate and Commercial.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, we looked at dance studios at a number of different facilities, both regionally and metropolitan areas.
Are we able to acknowledge what dance studios they were?
Yes, I can.
Yep, sorry to put you on the spot.
Through you, we looked at the Bunbury Regional Entertainment Centre, His Majesty's Theatre, the State Theatre, King Street Arts Centre, Mandurah Performing Arts Centre, Queen's Park Theatre in Greater Geraldton, Red Earth Arts Precinct in Karratha, and the Don Russell Performing Arts Centre in Gosnells.
Thank you. Councillors, any further questions? No? Thank you, Directors. 15.3.4, reserves as of the 30th of June 2025.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this report, it shows the proposed amended reserve transfers for the year to 30 June 2025 for Council's approval. So the reserve transfers have been amended to reflect estimated actual expenditure and depreciation for the year, and any interest that is received over and above the estimated amounts will be transferred to municipal funds.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Turner.
Just to the Director through the Mayor, so these transfers that are going back, is that why our sofa was showing some extra? The sofa and this kind of didn't work together.
Director.
So through the Mayor, the sofa is up until April, and the reserve transfers we've estimated up until June, so we've used the most recent numbers and then extrapolated them.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? No. Thank you, Director. Item 15.4, Advocacy and Strategy. The Kalgoorlie-Boulder CBD and Precinct Activation Working Group is the first item at 15.4.1. Director of Advocacy and Strategy, Mayor Hicks.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, as per the CEO's Chief Officers Group report that was presented at the April Ordinary Council meeting, Council is asked to endorse the formation of a City Activation Working Group. This group will lead the development of a strategic vision and master plan for the activation of the Kalgoorlie and Boulder CBDs and other social and economic precincts. The initiative builds on the City's most recent completed project work and plans such as the Kalgoorlie-Boulder Airport Master Plan and Boulder Tourism Precinct Report and Oasis Master Plan as examples. The working group will include stakeholders from businesses, industry, Aboriginal organisations, tourism, and other community sectors. It will be independently chaired to ensure impartiality and strategic oversight. If endorsed, We're planning on sending out the invitations in July, with the first meeting scheduled in August, and hopefully having a draft master plan to council by March 2026.
Thank you, Director. Questions, councillors? Councillor Turner?
I just noted, through to the director, through the mayor, might be a question for the mayor. In fact, with the committee members, would it be pertinent to have, where we've got appoint the mayor and deputy mayor to the working group, perhaps have a proxy so that if, for example, you're both unavailable, which can happen, like with at the moment one of you is being on leave and then someone gets sick or something happens, we still have a councillor that attends the meeting, because we wouldn't, given that we're going to have an independent chair, we wouldn't expect them to reorganise their whole meeting because we couldn't attend.
Thank you, councillor. Under the point 3 of the terms of reference, the member commitment notes that proxy attendance at the meetings is not permitted. So that's not just for the mayor, it's for others as well. I feel that I'd be made available for whatever time's coming up. I'm happy that there's no other councillors included in that, just based on other organisations. Any other further questions? Councillor Winner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through the Mayor to the Director or the CEO, just would like to confirm that the City will be providing a secretariat support for this working group, and that all items or actions proposed by this working group will still come through Council prior to adoption. Just confirming that.
Confirming and also sending over to the CEO to add.
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor, that's correct. The group has no delegated authority and no final decision-making ability. They will make recommendations through to Council in terms of their final report.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Any further questions? No. Thank you. Item 15.4.2, the Community Financial Support Policy.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, Council is asked to consider adopting a new community financial support policy, which consolidates and streamlines several existing funding policies into a single framework for providing financial and in-kind support to community groups. The policy ensures transparency and alignment with the City's strategic community plan and the community standards policy. It also introduces a public register of all funded initiatives, which will soon become a requirement under the Local Government Act reforms. It's anticipated that our reporting will exceed the minimum regulatory requirements, and the policy will also be supported by a community funding handbook, which will assist applicants and officers determining eligibility on projects.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? No, no questions. Thank you. 15.4.3, Strategic Community Plan.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, the draft Strategic Community Plan 2025 to 2035 has been prepared, outlining the City's long-term vision and priorities for the next decade. It has been informed by the City's most extensive engagement to date, including input from over 1,800 residents and businesses and over 46 hours of face-to-face consultation. Council is asked to endorse the release of the draft for final community consultation from the 17th to the 29th of June, ahead of final adoption in July. The plan will guide the City's strategic direction and inform future planning, funding, and advocacy efforts.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, questions on the Community Strategic Plan draft? Councillor Viskovich?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through to the Director. Who has made the final decision on our vision and mission statements?
So, thank you. Through the Mayor, the draft plan has been provided for community consultation. Those are open to commentary from any community member. However, the final vision and mission was workshopped with council and then workshopped again through the CEO and mayor as well.
It's all right. If you don't have your question, you can come back in writing. Councillors, any other questions? Remember, thank you, Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, through to the Director. When will the draft When will we have to have made decisions on our set vision and mission, or is this draft looking for confirmation to go to the public?
Director.
So we're currently seeking any consultation from any member of the community on the vision and mission. So if there's commentary on that, we will have a mechanism for people to put through their thoughts and feedback on both. And we will ask specific questions on those as well.
Thank you. Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you. Final question. How does the community give you the feedback on that information?
Thank you. Through the Mayor, we will have a Your Say page set up and then advertise that through our social media, and then people can click and complete a questionnaire.
Councillor Bodica. Microphone, Councillor Bodica, please.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, I was just going to say, will you be using any avenues of other communication rather than social media? Is that sort of like what you're going to be putting your major focus on? Because there's quite a few cohort groups in the community that don't actually use social media and don't have access to smartphones and their own computers and things like that. So will there be a point where they can actually maybe physically put it into the council or something like that in writing? Or
We can look at that as an option, absolutely.
just looking at the older demographic, they sort of often only get the Kalgoorlie Miner, or you might listen to it on the radio or something. So you could be missing out on quite a large group if you're just going to totally focus on Instagram and Facebook participation.
Councillor Bodica would have to put it under the legislative requirements in the newspaper regardless. So,
Yeah, so we'll still go through
there
that.
still needs to be the legislative requirements for community consultation alongside that too.
Yeah, so we're not just going to focus on one area of...
No, there's quite a broad piece to that. Mr CEO, did you want to add?
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I was just going to add that this final consult isn't a statutory requirement. This is an optional process we're putting out to get final buy-in from the community in relation to it. So it will be advertised. If people want to write in and put a submission in that way, they're quite welcome to do that as well. So we'll ensure that's covered off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Sorry, councillors? No, thank you. Thank you, Director. Item 15.5, Corporate and Commercial. Cash Yeager is our Director of Corporate and Commercial, starting us off under 15.5.1, Proposed Delegation Leasing.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, the purpose of this report is for Council to consider granting a delegation to the CEO in relation to leasing. The CEO currently does not have any delegation in relation to leases. At present, all new lease requests, renewal requests, sublease and lease assignment requests are required to be presented to Council. This can result in delays in processing these applications, particularly in relation to renewals or assignments. A draft delegation has been prepared which includes 3 proposed functions. The first is in relation to renewal of existing community and commercial leases. This is proposed on the rationale that Council approval is required for the initial lease and the renewal request is to be in line with the existing use and occupation already approved by Council. A maximum lease renewal period is proposed, with any request over this period requiring Council approval. The second proposed function is in relation to leases for residential property. This will support the city's attraction and retention efforts and will be supported by internal procedures. The third proposed function is in relation to assignments or sublease requests. Again, the delegation is proposed where the proposed purpose or activity is in line with the head lease that has been approved by Council. Where this is not the case, the request will be presented to Council for approval. As an example, the proposed delegation would mean that the 3 lease renewal requests on tonight's agenda could be processed by the administration without needing to be presented to Council. The proposed delegation will provide operational efficiencies while ensuring that Council maintains oversight of the city's leasing portfolio.
Thank you, Director. Any questions? No? Thank you. 15.5.2, which is Commercial Lease Renewal 250 Hannon Street.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider a lease renewal request for 250 Hannon Street. The business is currently Kalgoorlie Tours and Charters, and they have confirmed they would like to enter into another lease with the city. A third-party valuation has been undertaken with the rental figure of $30,900 per annum, excluding GST, which has been agreed by the applicant. The proposed lease period is 2 years with 3 one-year options. A 3-month rent-free period will be applicable to the lease, and the applicant has agreed to these terms. As the applicant is an existing tenant and there have been no payment issues throughout the tenancy, a credit check has not been considered necessary in this instance. In accordance with the requirements under Section 3.58 of the Local Government Act, the lease was advertised via public notice with no submissions received.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? None. Thank you. 1553-266 Hannon Street Commercial Lease Renewal.
Thank you. Again, the purpose of this report is for Council to consider a lease renewal request for 266 Hannon Street. This business is currently Hannon Street Bakery, and they have confirmed they would like to enter another lease. A third-party valuation has been undertaken, coming to a rental figure of $22,400 per annum excluding GST. The proposed lease period is 2 years with 3 one-year options. The 3-month rent-free period will be applicable to this lease, and the applicant has agreed to these terms. Again, as the applicant is an existing tenant and there have been no payment issues throughout the tenancy, a credit check was not considered necessary. In accordance with the requirements under Section 3.58 of the Local Government Act, the lease was advertised via public notice and there were no submissions received.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through to the Director, if it's possible, are we able on future recommendation or reports to have the square meterage of a shop and then the cost per metre that we're leasing it out to? Is that an option?
Yeah, we should be able to gather that. It's not a problem.
Thank you. Any further questions? No. 1554 Commercial Lease Renewal 258 Hannon Street.
Thank you. Again, this is another lease renewal request. This business is Gales for Males, and they have also confirmed they'd like to enter another lease with the city. The third-party valuation for this property has been undertaken with a rental figure of $17,360 per annum excluding GST. The proposed lease period is 2 years with 3 one-year options. The 3-month rent-free period will be applicable to this lease, and the applicant has agreed to these terms. Again, as they are an existing tenant and there have been no payment issues throughout the tenancy, a credit check has not been undertaken. In accordance with the requirements under Section 3.58 of the Local Government Act, the lease was advertised via public notice and no submissions were received.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? No. Thank you very much. Item 1555, Lease 13 Robert Street, Kalgoorlie.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to concurrently consider a request from Amana Living to terminate their lease of 13 Roberts Road, Kalgoorlie, and at the same time consider a new request from Respect Group Limited for the same premises. In March 2025, a business sale agreement was announced between Amana Living and Respect Group. Part of the transaction includes transferring the adult day centre at 13 Roberts Road to Respect Group. To enable the transition and ensure continuity of service, officers recommend that Council approve the termination of the lease with Amana and approve a new lease to Respect Group. In relation to the new lease with Respect Group, the proposed lease term is for 1 year with 2 one-year options. This is a similar length to the existing Amana Living lease. In relation to the rental amount, Respect have requested the same rent that Amana were paying under their lease, which was $18,830 excluding GST per annum. As part of the lease process, we have had a third-party valuation undertaken, which came to a market rental value of $31,500 per annum excluding GST. Council may resolve, and officers do recommend, to award the lease at the lower rental value than the market valuation, noting both parties' status as not-for-profits. The City sought legal advice to confirm that as a nationally registered not-for-profit, the requirement to advertise the lease under Section 3.58 of the Local Government Act was not required in this instance.
Thank you, Director. Questions? Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through to the Director, just wondering if it's an option to continue the current lease that we have at the current lease rate and then have them sign a contract at the negotiated market rate from the lease termination date of this current lease.
Through the Mayor, so the current lease ends on the 2nd of July, so it would be from the 2nd of July, so effectively straight away. I think it's the 2nd, it's the start of July.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I thought it was a question. What is the director's recommendation, or why is the director's recommendation to go that lower rate when there is such a significant difference?
Through the Mayor, so looking at the previous process when a minor living were granted the lease, that was the rental figure that was agreed to at the time. The business sale process included, between those two parties, negotiating the terms of what it may be, and they are aware of that rental figure, so that's what they were informed is the current rent. Council could absolutely request the higher rental figure, but given that it was the previous arrangement and their 1-year terms, to ensure that the service continued, we recommended to continue at that rental amount. It may have been, as I indicated, due to them being a not-for-profit, and that rent is a commercial market value.
Thank you. Councillor Turner.
So I have two questions. One of them is, I suppose it's along the same lines as Councillor Viskovich, but not the same lines. How do we get a market value for an adult daycare centre?
Director.
Through the Mayor, it's the same company that we normally use, and they were able to undertake a desktop valuation. They have done one previously of that site. They have done 13 Roberts Road before.
Okay.
Second question.
Second question is, can we confirm that it's still getting used as an adult daycare centre as the purpose, and not getting used for other means, that it'll be continued to be used as an adult daycare centre?
Through the Mayor, yes, that's the intention from Respect. They'll be continuing those services, and any lease would be for that specific purpose only, would be an adult daycare centre.
Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Wiam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some of my questions have already been asked, but I do have several questions, if that's all right, Mr. Mayor. The first question is the kitchen within the community centre included in the new lease, or now entirely back to council?
Through the Mayor, I believe it's included, but I'm happy to confirm and come back to you with that one.
Thank you very much. The second question is much down the similar veins of Councillor Turner, is just checking obviously what the space is being used for. As I've been led to believe, they're being used primarily for offices at this point in time. So just obviously very keen to know the checking situation of council to ensure they are being used for the right purposes. The next question is there merit in completing a review over possible uses of this site for the city, for the senior centre, or as the community as a whole?
Through the Mayor, that would be an option if council would like to pursue that. The lease term is 1 year, so it's a shorter term lease, and that could occur concurrently at the same time, perhaps, if that's the route council would like to take. It's not a long-term lease.
So it's a 1 year, but an option of a +2, was that
correct? 2
correct?
1-year options.
Yep, so it's a 3-year lease in essence. Yep. And finally, given the value of the location and to allow for equal opportunity and considering the possibilities of what the space could be used for in line with council expectations, has officers considered opening this space up for other community groups to put forward an application to lease at this point in time?
Through the Mayor, not at this point. We have presented the request from Respect to council.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Any further questions, councillors? No. 1556, request for reciprocal agreement, Hartfield Country Club.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is for council to consider in principle support for a reciprocal agreement between Goldfields Golf Club and Hartfield Country Club and the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder. Hartfield Country Club have approached the City and the Goldfields Golf Club to request a reciprocal agreement. Such an agreement provides many benefits, such as encouraging travel and competition between the clubs, which will not only support the clubs themselves, but also the Kalgoorlie Golf Course and the broader Kalgoorlie-Boulder area. In discussions with the clubs, Hartfield have advised they would be agreeable to enter an agreement which sees a 60% reduction in green fees, a $10 competition fee, and a limit of 6 visits per calendar year for their members. In return, they will waive the green fees for Goldfields Golf Club members, with also a $10 competition fee and a limit of 6 visits per year. Officers recommend that council provide in principle support to the agreement and authorise the fee waiver to members of Hartfield Country Club.
Thank you, Director. Questions, councillors? Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through the Mayor to the Director, what is the expected or possibly calculated impacts on our budget likely to be with an agreement of this nature? Do we have any indication on number of members likely to potentially use that, or any factors from there?
Through the Mayor, I don't have any number on the likely members, but I do have an indication of what the discounted fees would be. So the 18 holes from Monday to Sunday would be discounted from $79 down to $31.60. For under 18 or seniors, that's $59 down to $23.60. 9 holes would go from $53 to $21.20. And then for under 18 or senior card holders, $38 to $15.20. Through the Mayor, one of the reasons Hartfield approached us is they have a lot of members who have moved from Kalgoorlie-Boulder back to the city, and a lot of them are choosing to play at Hartfield Country Club. So there would be a number of people who are familiar with the area, but the exact number, I'm not quite sure.
Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a follow-up question. Do we have any data, or are we able to obtain any data from, particularly from Hartfield Country Club, or potential members which have utilised the Kalgoorlie course over the last 12 months? We can work out some potential estimates of what that financially could look like for the city.
Through the Mayor, yes, happy to reach out to them and see if they've got that.
Any further questions? Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through to the Director, do you believe that this is a better incentive for those going to Perth or from those people coming to Kalgoorlie?
I probably won't ask the Director's opinion on that, but it would go as presented.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Follow up from Ms Councillor Winner. I suppose without figures, I would like to see the number of potential spots that we would be discounting before offering membership. The question that I've got is, just a number of those potential people coming through both doors would be great.
So your question's already been asked. Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Do we gather data on all the other golf clubs that we have reciprocal rights with? So as an example, if somebody does come up here and they get a discount, is that recorded when they're paying?
Through the Mayor, so the Goldfields Golf Club, they have a number of reciprocal agreements, and when a visiting member comes, they have to present their letter of introduction, and there's a limit on how many number of visits they can come. So most clubs visitors can only come 6 times per year. So that would be tracked, so I can find that information out.
Councillor O'Donnell.
Yeah, not necessarily after it, but I was going to say that all that information can be used to see, is it viable? Is it worthwhile? Are we getting people coming up predominantly to utilise the golf club? Because I dare say then they'll spend money elsewhere. But if we're not getting them coming from these other clubs, utilising it various times of the year, then I think Councillor Viskovich says, then it's only for the our golfers' benefit, not...
Do you have a question?
The question is, yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. The question is, can we go back over and look at the figures to find out how many people are utilising it from other golf clubs, our golf club?
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes, we'll seek to find that information.
All right, I just thought you'd probably just press a button at the end of a day's takings.
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Councillor Viskovich, did you have another question? No? Any further questions, councillors? No? Thank you, Director. 1557, something exciting, is an artificial intelligence policy. I don't know if it is exciting. It is to me. Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to endorse the City's artificial intelligence policy. The policy follows the CEO's report to Council at the 28th of April 2025 Special Council meeting on the outcomes of the Local Government Chief Officers Group meeting, which included a report around opportunities with artificial intelligence. The policy sets out guiding principles to ensure that as the City embraces artificial intelligence in business processes, we ensure we are meeting requirements in relation to privacy, appropriate security management, reliability and verification of information, transparency in its use, accountability and monitoring of its use in the organisation, and ensuring cybersecurity mechanisms are in place to address any incidents.
Thank you. Councillor O'Donnell, question.
Yes, please, Mr Mayor. Director, can you give us 2 examples for those that aren't fully computer literate of AI things that occur, or what an AI is, please?
Over to you, Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So artificial intelligence programs are a tool which can be used to streamline a lot of processes that are quite manual, for example. It can analyse data, it can provide key outcomes, it can assist in reviewing or summarising information. So there's a number of opportunities of what we can do with it. As another example, we have a program that can dial into Teams meetings and can provide a summary of what was said at the meetings, so you can focus on what you're talking about and it can keep a record of what was said. So there's a number of opportunities for using AI within the city.
Further questions, councillors? Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through to the Director, are we able to introduce a higher or shorter review process of this policy, given the rapidly changing software, data and systems that are currently being used, just to ensure that it remains up to date with all potential risks and potential opportunities as well?
Director.
Through the Mayor, yes, if Council would like an earlier review period, that can definitely be accommodated.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? One from me. Does this have an impact on any jobs within the city?
Through the Mayor, no, it's not intended to directly impact any jobs.
Thank you. No further questions, councillors? Thank you. Thank you, Director. 15.6 from Engineering. 15.6.1 is the award of tender RFT 017 24/205 extruded curbing works. Director of Engineering, Louis Camporelli.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and through yourself. In regards to award of tender RFT 017 24, and it should read 25, extruded curbing works, Council was asked to not award the tender to the sole company that provided their quote. Whilst the team was assessing the tender, it became apparent that costs would be prohibitive and the city should re-advertise the tender, given that the significant cost raising and living away from home allowances that were attached to the tenderer's price.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Turner.
I had a question which is summed up in the summary anyway. We only had one submission, which is correct. And should there be a correction in the weighting? I don't think it's supposed to say 290% in respondents' resources. I think that's a typo. Yeah.
That is a typo, and that should be 20%.
Yeah, I thought so. And yeah, I think it's very prudent to probably re-advertise and look at it.
Thank you. Councillor Viscovic.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through to the Director, being that we only had the one submission this time round, how are we going to create more traction to get a few more tenders coming through?
Director.
And through you, Mr Mayor, we will re-advertise again, and our procurement team will go through Wilder and encourage more companies. There is more than one company that does these works.
Councillor Viscovic.
I think you know my question, Director. Is there anyone local that can do this job?
Currently, none that I know of locally that are able to do these works.
Thank you. Any further questions? Director, does this have an impact on our upcoming roads resurfacing works and other programs?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Currently this year we're intending to spend 1.5 million. Next year we're looking at spending 3 million, so significant amounts. We don't intend there to be any impact. We'll be basically using quotes going forward until we can go through with the tender.
Does that process therefore put more pressure on your budgets or our budgets by using quotes as opposed to tender?
No extra pressure, just more workload.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? No? you can go and heat your heat pack up, Councillor. We'll note that Councillor Turner departs, 6:49. 1562, requests for quotation 012-2425, supply and delivery of 3 6-metre cubed road sweepers.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and through yourself, Council was asked to consider the submissions received for the request RFQ 012-2425, the supply of delivery of 3 6-metre cubed road sweepers, and award the contract respondent A. The submissions were evaluated by the procurement team, and tenderer A was a clearly superior submission against the selection criteria over the second submission.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through the Mayor to the Director. Director, are you able to please explain the level of workload experienced both currently and expected moving forward, which is why the recommendation is to purchase 3 road sweepers as opposed to simply replacing the 2 that Council currently has?
Thank you, and through the Mayor, the current road sweepers, sweeper A works 50 hours a week, sweeper B works 40 hours a week, and there is no sweeper C. The impact would be that sweeper A and sweeper B would work 50 hours each a week, and sweeper C would work 20 hours a week. Given that, we'd be able to rotate sweepers for more regular maintenance.
Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through the Director, does these street sweepers have any ability to do paths as well?
Director.
Thank you, and through yourself, Mr Mayor. No, these are purely road sweepers. For sweeping the roads, the size of them don't make them available to do the paths or the size of the paths we have. We currently have 2 path sweepers and 1 single roller path sweeper.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just wanted to confirm that our path sweepers are in good condition. Is it something that we should be considering spending the money on the 3 sweepers? Is there any money that we should be allocating for our path sweepers as well?
Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
And through yourself, Mr Mayor, we have just recently replaced within the last 6 months both our path sweepers, and the smaller roller sweeper is less than 12 months old.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to follow on from Councillor Viskovich's question. Director, is there any capacity to retain the 2 existing street sweepers, be it for parts or for more smaller duties, or have they come to end of life?
Director.
Thank you, and through yourself, Mr Mayor. They haven't reached end of life, but they're starting to show significant wear and spending more and more time in a workshop. So it makes no sense to retain those and purely buy new.
Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to follow up through the Director, do they hold any commercial value at all in terms of potential sale?
Director.
They certainly do, and from my understanding, they're traded against the other 3 sweepers.
Thank you. No further questions, councillors? Noting Councillor Turner returns at 6:53. Thank you, Director. Under 15.7 City and Community, 15.7.1 is our annual grant program for 25-26. Lauren Chapman-Holly will present, also noting a disclosure of interest here from Lauren, who's a member of the Goldfields Repertory Club, which has been managed through internal conflict of interest management process in relation to all matter pertaining to this report. Lauren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Council is asked to consider the recommendations for funding provided through the 2025-26 annual grant program under the Community Assistance Scheme. The AGP provides one-off grants and 3-year service agreements for not-for-profit community groups and organisations with a focus on community development initiatives, capital works projects and events or activities. The report outlines the details for new applications submitted, as well as existing service agreements held by other organisations within Kalgoorlie-Boulder. A total of 18 applications were received or were submitted across the categories for funding in the 2025-26 financial year through the city's Smarty Grants portal. A panel of officers reviewed each application against the city's Strategic Community Plan 2020 to 2030 and the annual grant program guidelines, and developed recommendations following workshopping with Council on funding parameters. As the Mayor stated, Council was asked to note my declared potential interest in an application. So for transparency and efficiency, please ask me all other questions and hold any questions relating to the Goldfields Repertory Club application till I leave the room, and Director Melissa Murphy will take those questions on notice.
Thank you, Lauren. Councillors, questions? No questions, councillors? Councillor Turner, is that a question?
Yes, I do have a question. Given that the recommendation here is to cut funding significantly to a couple of groups, has there been any consultation with these groups, and are they aware of what the recommendation is?
Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And through the Chair, Councillor, whilst the groups have not been advised specifically what the recommendation is, as it is pending council endorsement, during the pre-process, so during the community information sessions, all community groups, particularly those with ongoing 3-year service agreements, were reminded that funding commitment is not guaranteed, and that they may wish to demonstrate in their applications their sustainable funding pathways and identify other funding options.
Thank you, Manager. Further questions, councillors? Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just wanted to confirm if the applications that we've received, should they not receive the funding they are requesting, do we see any of those groups forfeiting or closing due to not receiving our funds?
Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through the Chair, there is no information that indicates that any particular group would close or not be able to deliver services if our funding was significantly reduced. However, based on demonstrated other funding sources, service delivery by some of those groups could be significantly impacted.
Councillor Bodica.
Through the Mayor, I noticed through that list there was a couple there that had duplication of services provided within the community. For those groups, would that be a definite no if there's already a duplication of some other funding avenue for them? And would that be sort of like a definite no for that?
Sorry, councillor, you're not speaking into the microphone. I can't hear your question.
I said through the list there, I noticed that there was a couple of services that had a duplication, of other funding that was within the community. So if they've already got that, would that sort of be meaning that we wouldn't be looking at giving them funding, or would they have to sort of like prove more in their submissions about what they were wanting?
Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through the Chair, Councillor, the guidelines state that in the eligibility criteria that funding for duplication of services is not supported through the annual grant program.
I thought that from previous grant funding that we had, so I was just asking that question. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bodica. Any other further questions, councillors? No? Thank you, Lauren. Thank you. Item 15.7.2, the draft legal agreement for a prospecting licence application on lot 128. Sorry, Councillor O'Donnell. Sorry, can you just turn your microphone on, please, Councillor?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I misunderstood. I thought we were going to wait for Manager Chapman to leave the room, then we can ask any questions about the Rep Club.
If you do have those questions, probably now put it in writing.
Okay.
Yeah. Item 15.7.2, draft legal agreement for a prospecting licence application on lot 128, that's R35661 Yarry Road, lot 405 R46458 Yarry Road, and lot 301 R8767 Goldfields Highway, Parkston. Noting that the responsible officer is in the room, in Kevin Tang, the Coordinator of Statutory Planning. Melissa Murphy is our Director of City and Community who'll be presenting. Over to you, Director. Yeah. Microphone just needs to be on. Thank you.
Council has asked to authorise an agreement for use and surrender in relation to prospecting licence over the area of land opposite the current landfill site at Yarry Road. Department of Energy, Mines and Petroleum have received a request for a prospecting licence over a portion of Reserve 3566, 1 and 8767 and the entire Reserve 46458. Reserve 35661 is reserved for parkland. Reserve 8767 is reserved for purpose of common, and Reserve 46458 is reserved for a purpose of camping. In 220, the city objected to a prospecting licence, citing it as the area as a valuable location for a future expansion for our landfill facility. In 2022, the city provided the Warden's Court with a nominal area in relation to that site that it would like to set aside for the expansion of landfill. The agreement for use and surrender document in a common way for the Warden Court is a common way for the Warden Court to register an agreement between two parties. The proposed agreement requires the licence holder to vacate the site should the city wish to expand its landfill into that area within 24 months with no ability to claim compensation. The agreement for use and surrender has been agreed in principle between both parties. In investigating the use of the reserve, it came to the city's attention recently that Reserve 46458 has cultural significance to a number of goldfields of Aboriginal language groups as a site that has been used in the past and is used for sorry camp business. In accordance with Part 2, Section 5 of the Aboriginal Heritage Act, it states that the Act applies to any sacred site or ritual or ceremonial site which is of importance and specific significance to persons of Aboriginal descent. The reserve area is therefore afforded the same protection as if it was a registered site. The city has notified Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage of the significance of the site informally and formally, and it is likely the site will be state registered. The city will also notify the Warden's Court. A heritage officer from DPLH has visited the site. The significance of the site does not prohibit the Warden from issuing a prospecting licence. However, the Heritage Act requires that anyone wishing to disturb a culturally significant site must first obtain a Section 18 clearance. The request, therefore, to Council is for Council's agreement to enter into an agreement with the prospecting licence holder so that the area of land can be reserved for landfill purpose in the future.
Thank you. Questions, councillors? Councillor Turner?
Got two questions. They may be points of clarification. So given that we had an objection previously, which I presume is so that we could protect our interests if we needed to expand our tip site, and that there is now an agreement for use to surrender that land if that's required. Am I understanding that correctly? Is that how you explained it? That if we required that land for a future expansion, that's what that agreement means?
Through the Mayor, yes, it means that we have a caveat on that, with that agreement, that we can require the other party to surrender its use within a 24-month notice period without a compensation.
Very good. And my second one was, given the letter from Bega and the cultural and heritage significance of that land, that any future leaseholder will have to go through the appropriate channels and receive a Section 18, as you explained, just to break it down in very basic.
Through the Mayor, that is correct. And we have further to that informed DPLH, and dependent on Council's decision tonight, we'll be, through our lawyers, informing the Warden's Court of the significance of the site.
Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Winner?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through the Director, is there any risk to the city if the site was to be disturbed by a prospector in breach of the Heritage Act that the city could be implicated in legal actions as the site owner?
Through the Mayor, I don't have a legal background, so I can't categorically answer that. However, the Heritage Act trumps the Mining Act, both of which are utilised as part of this process.
Sorry, I'll just reword.
Sorry, councillor, just before you proceed, Mr CEO.
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor, the issue in relation to the identification of the site, once it's identified, it becomes the responsibility of the prospectors who are on that site to ensure that they do not disturb that without proper authority. In this case, they're not likely to get any clearance to go into that area. So it would be their responsibility, not ours.
Follow-up. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through to the CEO, just to follow up, Mr CEO, on your comments just then. Would the city, as part of this agreement process, receive for lack of a better way to explain it, a site inspection report which outlines the conditions of the site prior to potentially prospectors, so the city potentially, again, can't be implicated in legal actions?
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor, I think we can probably have a look at this to ensure that we get some form of indemnity to ensure that we aren't liable for any works or disturbance that a prospector undertook on the site.
Thank you, Mr CEO. My final question, just through to either the CEO or to the Director, is there any risk that in granting this that the site could fall under any other acts, such as the Mining Act, at some point in time, potentially what is found and how it goes, and potentially harm future expansion projects for the city?
Can you repeat the question?
Not a problem. The question is there any risk that in granting this, that the site could potentially fall under any other acts, such as the Mining Act, depending on what is located and found on the site, at some other point in future, which could potentially harm any future developments for the city?
I'd have to take that question on notice.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. Any further questions? Just some clarification, please, Director. Is it my understanding that this particular process started in 2020 from the department and we're only at 2025 getting a result?
Yes, Mayor, that is correct.
Thank you. Item 15.7.3. If you've got a question, councillor, put it in writing, send it through. Option to purchase reserve 47572, lot 5021, number 2, Fabric Street, Somerville.
Thank you. The city has had preliminary communications with the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage regarding the possible disposal of 2 Fabric Street, Somerville. The area of land is adjacent to the city's administration building. DPLH, who are in early stages of investigating optimal use of the land, have asked the following. Firstly, if the city could work with the department to find a solution where the land can be unlocked for housing and the city's infrastructure protected. Secondly, if the city is not interested in divestment, what is the highest and best use of the land? And thirdly, if the city is interested in acquiring the land. As outlined in the report, the site contains infrastructure important to the city in the form of an access road to its rear car park and essential sewerage infrastructure within the western portion of the site. It is suggested that this area of land could be included in the city's reserve 44344, which is the land on which the city's administration building is located. The site, whilst not included in the area covered by the draft North Somerville structure plan, is suited to higher density residential area and zoned residential R40. This essentially means that if the planning is in place for the site to be developed for group dwellings, that would amount to around 30 units, or multiple apartments would amount to around 55 units for the area. The city's advocacy framework, 225-28, includes housing as a important component for future growth of Kalgoorlie-Boulder. The framework in particular states the lack of residential housing is a significant issue facing Kalgoorlie-Boulder, as with many local governments across Australia, and is contributing to a range of economic and social challenges, including business viability and population retention. Within this context, and considering the zoning of the site, the highest and best use of the land is for high-density residential development. The officer's report is therefore the council authorise the CEO to commence negotiations with the department and the outcomes of the negotiation are brought back to council for its consideration.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Winner?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through the Mayor to the Director, and it might even be a CEO question, I'm not too sure. Is there any option to acquire the site under the state government's lazy land activation mandate?
Through the Mayor,
Director?
at this point in time, the processes outlined to us via DPLH are as either a submitting an EOI for the referral to the department's housing diversity pipeline, and its team, referred to as HDP, and this would include a reuse referral and a referral to the HDP team, which has not occurred at this point. Alternatively, we could submit a high-level business case. So that has not been stipulated as a formal process to date, but we're in a very preliminary stage of communication with the department and looking for authorisation from council before we can explore all avenues possible. It's important to note that there may be others that come forward to be interested in that land once the DPLH continues with this process, and if that was to be the case and there was a competing interest, the matter would generally be referred to the Minister for Lands to make a decision.
Mr CEO, just want to provide some further comments.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, in relation to the issue around the lazy lands, it's certainly an option that we would explore. The recommendation is around the possible acquisition, and that could include any mechanism, either purchase or acquisition through another mechanism. So that's the way we've tried to structure the resolution.
Thank you. A second question, Mr Mayor?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Director, and thank you, CEO. My second question is, how long is it expected, if the item was successful at the OCM, that negotiations and the potential acquiring of the land would take to finalise?
Through the Mayor, that has not been indicated to us yet. As I mentioned, we're at very early stages of communication with the department, and we would certainly be able to provide further information if we were authorised to commence negotiations.
Thank you. Councillor Viskovich?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Due to the potential the CEO, have we had any other parties interested to date on this site?
Mr CEO?
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor, as it's not actually our land at this point in time, we're not familiar with what the department's looking at. So they've approached us in the first instance, but they will go to open market if we're not interested.
Thank you. Any other further questions? Is this the only land director that you're aware of that the department's trying to involve the city on taking on board for housing?
At the moment, that is the land that we've been in communication with them about.
Mr CEO?
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor, and it probably goes back to one of the earlier questions as well in relation to timeframes. There were a number of parcels of land identified by the city probably 2 years ago to get transferred across from the department, which were still in play. We do not have much progress on those at this point.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Thank you, Director. Noting that Councillor Bodica left the room also at 7:12 p.m. 1574, amendment to approve childcare premises lot 4520, 28 Home Street, Boulder.
Thank you. The council is asked to approve an amendment to an existing development approval for the operation of a childcare premises at 28 Home Street, Boulder. This item was recently before council and approval was provided for a centre to accommodate up to 100 primary school children and 13 staff. The applicant has now sought to change the hours of operation, previously approved to include, change the hours of operation to include school pupil-free days. This means an additional 33 full days of childcare across 4 terms each year, calculated on the basis that 3 are mandatory staff development days set by the Department of Education, and the other 3 days are flexible days at the discretion of the 10 primary schools within our boundaries, giving a maximum 30 days plus the 3 days from the department. As the care days can occur at any time during the 4 school terms, except for the mandatory 3 days from the Department of Education, the application cannot specify the exact days that it's seeking for pupil-free days. Therefore, the application requests approval for 33 days of full-time care across the 4 terms. The application was advertised to occupiers and owners within the area, as it was previously, and the city received 2 submissions, both in support of the application. As the proposal is an amendment for the previous approval, condition 4C within the paper includes a request for the additional 33 days. It should be noted that under the Planning and Development Act, an amendment to an application cannot remove existing rights provided for by council recently. It is therefore recommended that council approve the application as lodged.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? No questions? No. Thank you, Director. Noting Councillor Bodica's return at 7:17. That is the last item on our agenda for this evening, councillors. If you do have any questions, the questions that have been taken on notice will be provided to you. And if you do have any further questions, please ensure that you send them through to EM request. I'll now close tonight's meeting. Thank you for attendance, councillors, and thank you, staff, at 7:17 p.m. And our OCM will be next Monday night at 7 p.m.